You've done us proud, Ruud.
Yeah, thanks, but we've got our guy. It kind of feels to me.
It was only, I mean, look, he knew Amorim was coming in when he took the job.
Yeah.
He didn't necessarily know that was going to be the case when he came in as part of the backroom staff for Erik ten Hag, but it's been a successful time. Does it continue for Ruud van Nistelrooy? He's made it very difficult for them to get rid of him.
Yeah, but I found it as a strange one because I genuinely thought that when he came in with Ten Hag there, it was to help him, and then if Ten Hag didn't work out, he would be the next manager. I genuinely thought that was happening, but I saw him he's very adamant that no, I've not come here to take the job, I've come here to help him as a number two, and I thought, oh, okay then. So when I'm seeing Amorim being linked, I was thinking, well, what's going on? What is the point of Ruud's appointment then? Because now he's there for the interim, and if Amorim comes in and he thinks, well, I don't really want a major legend who's just done really well with the last couple of games over my shoulder, you know. So it didn't make sense him coming in the first place if he wasn't going to take over from Ten Hag. For me, that was just how I thought. It just felt really strange, yeah.
But even then, you look at that sample of games that we've got for when he was in charge on his own, and it's 2 wins over Leicester, one of them of which was in the Carabao Cup, in which it was very changed sides, and then the win against PAOK, and then the draw at home to Chelsea, in which it wasn't a particularly exciting performance. So, you know, we can get excited with 3 wins and a draw under Ruud van Nistelrooy, but we have to put it into context a little bit.
You have to look at where they come from. If you look at where they come from, you think this is great.
Yeah.
Because, guys, you can tell me, like, look, in a short period of time, we cannot judge, but, guys, put somebody else that's going to do that job. Because he did the job. And I'm not only saying it because of Ruud. Yeah, definitely. Me and Ruud, we had, you know, the time when we were in the national team, always great with him. And not great because of the human aspect, because he was a great player. And as a player, it's not easy to do a great job as a coach, yeah? Because sometimes people get it twisted, because being a great player doesn't make you a great coach. And we have seen that a number of times. But I think he did this period, he did really well. Also because he learned from the experience at PSV, comes over here, and I think him coming and taking the job was, I think they wanted to hold on to some culture of the club. And I think that is the reason why he was at the team. Because if not, if the coach goes, you definitely want your second man that knows that much about the club. You want him gone too, but they kept him. So they wanted to hold on to that. Now it's going to come down. It's like Wright said. He has 1 more year left. What are they going to do with him? Because he wants to know too, and the way we just talked about before he came, this looks like a man that he was ready for the job. If the job would have come to him, knowing him that he still wants to be a coach, oh my God, he would have said,
but he wasn't making the noises that he wanted to be the number one. That's why.
But he's not that guy.
Yeah, well,
he's also not that guy.
But this is why it doesn't make sense, because they've got.
But you can't, when you're working for one manager and you know another one is incoming, definitely incoming, you can't really go out in public and say, oh, it's a shame because I want Ten Hag's job, or oh, actually Amorim's coming in, but I would have liked to do it, because then Amorim's not going to keep. He's in a difficult position.
Where the situation found itself, that's what everybody's thinking anyway.
Yeah.
And now it's, you know, why wouldn't Ruud van Nistelrooy want Manchester United job? It's an amazing job.
Yeah.
He's a legend of the club. You know, he could take them to a place that, if anyone at Man United, if you come in and you make it happen, you are going to the stars. Why wouldn't you want this job?
But that's why it's a really interesting decision now for the ownership group, because they've got someone in there who, you know, as you said, Mario, has got the connection with the club. He brings with it that tradition. And this is an ownership group that's, you know, got rid of a lot of people at the club who have got long-standing connections at every level. And so they don't have too many people they can fall back on who have that connection. So do they keep that, and somebody who's proven to be a good coach and by all accounts is popular with the players, but who also may very well, for the reasons Wrighty said, want the job permanently? How on earth do they kind of square those two things?
Well, just in case Amorim does go after 6 months, because you never know what happens, but maybe that's why they're keeping him on.
I want to hear that.
With Mario.
I know it's new owners, but Manchester United's record with managers has been to be extremely patient. That may be different under Ineos.
I think there's a certain strategy to an extent of what they've always gone for has been sort of, you know, either people who have been associated with the club like Solskjaer, and they love that link to the old guys, but at the same time, there was also the link to the older managers who perhaps hadn't yet identified a new scheme. Then they bought Erik ten Hag and thought to themselves, well, maybe he's out of his depth. And they were thinking Ruben Amorim is one that Liverpool looked at, Manchester City probably were keen on. So this is a guy that other people are interested in. Let's start a new cycle, but still keep one tie.
We will talk lots more about Manchester United and what their future holds over the coming weeks. And we'll be looking at Ruben Amorim's Manchester United very shortly when we come back after the international break.
So that goal denying Ruud van Nistelrooy a victory in his first Premier League game in interim charge of Manchester United before, of course, Ruben Amorim arrives on November the 11th to take charge of Manchester United. Before that, he has 3 more games with Sporting Lisbon, including this week in the Champions League, would you believe, against Manchester City. And ahead of that Champions League tie, he has said this today when asked about Manchester United. He said, my focus at the moment is on winning the match for Sporting. The conclusions are not important for me because they could be erroneous. If we win tomorrow, they will think the new Alex Ferguson has arrived, and that will be very difficult to live up to. It could increase expectations. I don't think about that. What interests me is to win. And as I say, he'll arrive on November the 11th. His first game is Ipswich away. Let's remind everybody, if everybody is fit, that the players are available to Ruben Amorim when he comes, before any potential tweaks in January and any further signings in the summer window. 3 goalkeepers, a long list of defenders, of course, a lot of which we haven't even seen this season, including the bottom 3, Yoro, Shaw and Malacia. Manutd is currently out injured as well. Højlund missed the start of the season. Anthony unavailable at the moment as well. But those names are what Ruben Amorim is going to inherit. Now, the fascinating discussion is, since he became a head coach, which what he will be at Manchester United, the 39-year-old has always been a 3-4-3 man. So we've set you two the task of being Ruben Amorim. When everybody's fit, how do those group of Manchester United players go into a 3-4-3 system, which we expect Ruben Amorim to take? So obviously we'll start with the obvious one, which is Andre Onana in goal.
I don't think there was too much argument there.
No, but then the back 3 is going to be interesting. Let's see what you two have gone with.
But there wasn't much of an argument between us, was there, when we did this earlier?
No, I think, you know, a lot of it sort of picks itself. But, yeah, I think that Yaro in the middle there, likes, Yaro, sorry.
Yeah.
Likes to progress with the ball and maybe come into the midfield line and sort of break that initial press. So he'd be the one that's probably more comfortable in doing that and driving forward. So he took the position there in the middle of the back 3.
He's still 18 years of age and we've not seen him yet, 60 million.
I think that's an important position because, as Aaron says, Amorim has got a reputation of that central player coming into the midfield a little bit. So that central player's got to be decent on the ball. And I think De Ligt and Martinez, either side, they like playing. They're both aggressive defenders. They like being up against men. So I think that middle player's got to be good on the ball. And I think Yoro fits that bill. So I think if everybody's fit, we think that they're the 3 that he'll go with.
That's interesting. So in terms of the central midfielders and then the wing-backs, which is the system, of course, that he plays, and has got 2 league titles in Lisbon, remember. Dalot on the right, Luke Shaw, if he's fit, of course. You've gone for his left wing-back. And what's quite interesting is Manutd, who's still a teenager in midfield, and Ugarte, who we should point out has played for Ruben Amorim before and won the title in Lisbon. So no Casemiro there, gentlemen, and also no Mazraoui. He's not getting in that situation.
Well, we can only pick 11 players, obviously. We did debate them. Casemiro and Ugarte was a bit of a toss of a coin, wasn't it? But we just thought that with Ugarte having played under him, that might just tip it in the balance.
Yeah, of course. I think, obviously, he's won the league with Sporting. He understands the manager, know what he's asking of the players, and especially in this formation as well. So, you know, Casemiro's had a great career, and he's still a quality player, and I'm sure there's more from him. But I think he just pips him in this one just because of, you know, that experience that he's had with him previously.
Now, this is interesting because we then go to what is effectively, in this system that he plays, 2 number 10s.
Yeah.
Bruno Fernandes, you're putting in as one of them, and Marcus Rashford, the other. So no Alejandro Garnacho.
Well, I think
Is he a difficult man to get into this system, though?
Yes, I think that's what it is. And I think it's important to mention that these two players play almost inside in a lot of his formations. They're not necessarily wide players. So they come in and they play as number 10s, and that probably plays into the advantage of someone like Fernandes, because otherwise if you're playing two wide players, then he might not get a game, or he might have to deploy him as a midfield player. So with those players coming inside, you could argue, is Rashford a wide player? Can he play inside? I think he can. I think he's got some decent
Does he
vision.
want to?
Well, he's not going to play otherwise, unless he ends up playing him as a number 9 instead of Højlund. But we debated long and hard about this one, didn't we? And we just went for Rashford to start.
Yeah, we did. I think, Rashford has loads of quality, and I think hopefully now under this new manager, he'll give him a new lease of life, and to reach the levels that he has done in the past, and to be, more consistent with that. He's an unbelievable player on his day, and I feel like in that system, in them little holes, pockets, I think he might be a little bit more suited to that and getting on the half turn, threading these little through balls through, or driving at defenders. I think he has them attributes that could really, give him the confidence again, and to elevate his game back to them levels that he reached before.
And just to round off the team, there's no doubt, I don't think at the moment, in form, working with Ruud van Nistelrooy in a one-on-one situation, that Rasmus Højlund is the man to lead the line. Now, he's always played this system. We expect Ipswich away, his first game in charge, which we'll obviously be covering on Matchday Live, to go with that as well. The big question I'm interested in here, particularly Aaron, who you've played in this system quite a bit, is he's going to have, 3-4 training sessions after the international break to change personnel and shape going into a Premier League away game. Is that possible?
Yeah, well, obviously we know about his history in playing this formation. So for me, he'll want to try and implement that and try and, show what he's trying to implement on the field to, the fans, the supporters, and all of that side of things. So, yeah, for me, I think if he, the difficult thing is only having 2 or 3 days to prepare and trying to get the players up to speed in that system. But, these players are intelligent. I'm sure they'll probably have a lot of meetings in that short period because there's just not enough time on the grass. So to give them as much information off the field is probably going to be key in them initial few weeks. But what we've seen of him previously, he likes to play that formation. So I'm sure they'll probably try and look to play that.
What's the alternative? I mean, it's obviously to go with what they're going with already, playing 4 at the back and 4-3-3 and all the rest of it. But it's not like it's working at the moment. Where are they in the league? 14th or something? I mean, so because we've been thinking about it, can he implement it straight away? It's so radical, so different. Playing a back 3 is so different to playing a back 4. I mean,
what about the point in
dynamic.
Portugal where he's had a success, where Sporting Lisbon have the ball an awful lot?
Yeah.
Manchester United just haven't had that in the games.
But this might be the way to start getting them on the ball a lot more. They've got to start somewhere. They've got to start somewhere. The alternative, as I say, we're going to just play as you will for the rest of the season. We'll have loads of time in pre-season. No, it's at the start. They've got to do it at some point. Might as well just get off and running. If it goes wrong and whatever, well, that might be the new teething problems. But at least now they've got a plan, and this is what we're going to work to, and this is what we're going to perfect over a period of time. So there's no better time than now. As I say, it's not like Manchester United are winning every single game, and it's like, don't touch it. It's not broken, so don't fix it. This thing has been broken for a long, long time. Let's just start again and start now. So if I was him, I would absolutely come in and say, right, this is what we're going to do. Yes, we'll make mistakes. Yes, we might get beaten by Ipswich. So what? So what? At least we're now on a road to something a bit more positive that we're going to try to implement and get more possession and get a system and get a plan in place.
Well, the next time we are with you on Final Word, Manchester United will have played at Ipswich the day before under Ruben Amorim, and we will be all over that with interest. Now, when we come back, we'll reflect on Aaron's career.
And Leroy, so a change in the dugout at Old Trafford. Erik ten Hag has gone. Ruben Amorim has been appointed as the new head coach, and I'm delighted to say that European football expert Andy Brassel joins us to discuss the appointment. First of all, Andy, first question, what do you make of it?
It's very exciting for Manchester United. I think there's a definite gap between what they've been able to do in the summer and what they've done on the pitch so far in this Premier League season. But a lot of what they've done off the pitch does suggest they're pulling in the right direction. And the way they were able to move quickly on this deal when so many other clubs over Europe wanted Amorim and so many huge clubs wanted Amorim as well shows that they've got a real certainty about where they're going. And the fact that he accepted the project, remember, he's turned down a couple of big clubs before as well. He didn't really want to go in season as well. And they've just said, OK, well, it's got to be now. That shows that he really believes in what they're trying to do as well in the coming years.
A relatively young manager, relatively new to management. Can you talk us through his career path so far?
Yeah, so Sporting went out on a limb to get him, even more so than Manchester United had. So he was in charge of Casa Pia in Lisbon, who were in the third tier. He left due to an administrative error there. But when he took on the job at Braga, having worked with the reserves and in the academy for a bit, he was such a hit in the first team. He was in charge for 2 months, and then Sporting went and spent 10 million euros that they didn't really have, to be perfectly honest. They were on their uppers at the time, but they believed in him so much. Hugo Viana, who's going to Manchester City, of course, as the sporting director, believed in him so much. It was the third highest fee paid for a coach in world football at the time, after Villas-Boas and Brendan Rodgers. But he's proved worth every penny. So that really shows you that he's really convincing. He's really convincing in terms of being a communicator in the way that gets through to players quickly. Although at Manchester United, just like at Sporting, I feel it will be a gradual process, because he inherited something pretty bad at Sporting, actually, probably even worse than what he's getting at Manchester United. So even though it will take time, he'll have a definite plan to get them competing again.
Andy, look, his record at Sporting Lisbon is absolutely outstanding. I mean, it's the best in Europe since he joined. So I just want you to talk us through this graphic and what it means for Man United.
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at where they are and the fact that they want to be aggressive. That's going to excite Manchester United fans. Manchester United fans feel they want to play a certain type of football, Leroy. We all know that, and they've been a long way from that for a while. I think if you go back under not just Ten Hag, but Solskjaer, it's all quite reactive football, relying on the individual qualities of the players that they already have. Now, obviously, Ten Hag was meant to be a philosophy coach. So if people want to take Amorim with a pinch of salt, I understand that, because I think Ten Hag got there, realised the scale of the task was something pretty big. Maybe he didn't have quite the raw materials that he did to execute as he did at Ajax. And maybe people feel that Amorim is going to feel the same. But as I said before, I would counter with the fact that it was a gradual change. He inherited a team that weren't anywhere near the Champions League or the European places when he took over, and he got them there first, then got them to the title, which is extraordinary, really. They didn't play such aggressive football at first. These figures are more recent, really. So they built towards that ability to dominate games. He always wanted to do that, but he realised that he didn't have the players for it. First off. So they want to be energetic, they want to be young, they want to press high, but there's not recklessness either. I think there is an understanding of, there is a time when you have to sit off a bit, but they've just improved so much over the years that he's been in charge. And because he stayed for a little bit longer than a successful coach normally would in Portugal, he's been able to progress the game. So they have been more ball dominant as his teams have progressed.
Andy, as regards to style and out of possession, we've got a graphic here which suggests he likes the high press. Will he go straight in with that, do you feel, at Man United?
I don't think he will, Tim. And, 3-4-3 doesn't really completely describe the way he wants to play. I think it's a bit more flexible than that. I think you can lightly compare it to what Barcelona did under Pep Guardiola, because, of course, when the fullbacks went, be it Dani Alves, Maxwell, whoever else, and Busquets dropped in between the centre-backs, that was almost a 3-4-3 in itself. And seeing as his central midfielders tend to be quite deep-lying, so you've got Hjulmand and Daniel Bragança at the moment, who play a lot of safe passes, I think that's probably quite suitable. If you look at the team that played against Chelsea at the weekend, I think you look at that and you think with a few little tweaks, that could quite easily become an Amorim 3-4-3. Okay, does he want to improve the personnel over time? Yes. Does he want to get them playing more aggressive football over time? Yes, of course he does. But at the moment, I think if you're looking at, say, if you go with two central midfielders of Ugarte and Casemiro, to press too high would be leaving them really open, especially in the Premier League, where a lot of the time it's about fighting for the right to counter-attack. So that when his team do sit and do defend, and this has always been the case with Amorim teams, they will take quite a low block. And that's fine, because they've got the front players who can change it up pretty quickly.
Andy, I want to have a look at Amorim in possession, and we've got this graphic here, and what it is, it's got, you see up that left-hand side, it's got direct speed upfield, and then you've got passes per sequence. So if we're saying fewer passes in terms of playing more direct, I would suggest, you see Ferenz and Portimonense, that would suggest a sort of Liverpool style up on that top left-hand corner of this graphic, and then down this bottom right-hand side, slow and intricate, more passes in the build-up, I suppose a more Man City style. And you see Sporting down here in this bottom right-hand side. So that suggests a more Man City sort of style of play in possession?
Yeah, I think they've had to be patient, because as time's gone by, I mean, not only did he want to become more ball dominant, as I was saying, Leroy, but there's a sense that they've had to break teams down in a different way, because they've been so good and they've become so good. I mean, I cannot tell you the relief in Portugal amongst Porto and Benfica fans that he's going. And actually, that Porto and Benfica players are publicly talking about, like, we might have a crack at the league now, because both of those traditional biggies who've got a lot more money and a lot more tradition than Sporting, they've not been able to get near Sporting this season. Sporting have won all their league games. And, you know, even though they've played quite well this season, Porto and Benfica, they knew that if Amorim stayed, they could not touch them. And I think that's quite important. So they've had to find a different way to break teams down. Of course, the wide players are more and more important in doing that. Now, if we go back a couple of seasons, those wide players were Pedro Porro, who of course we're very familiar with in the Premier League, and Nuno Mendes, who's the left back or left wing back for Portugal and PSG as well. And as they've gone, and Amorim has gradually replaced those with more attacking players. Whereas the players in the centre, as I was saying, they're quite risk averse, actually, those players. So if you're looking for players who can carry that out, and of course, Ugarte knows him very well from Sporting as well. He gave him his chance, and Amorim was so impressed by Ugarte that he often included him instead of João Palhinha as time went by. So he was quite a natural replacement for him by the time that Palhinha went to Fulham. You do have that balance.
So just in terms of the shape, going back to it, 3-4-2-1, that's pretty much how he plays. Am I right in thinking that his central defender out of the three steps into midfield at times? So he comes into a midfield position, they make it a bit more of a diamond at times in midfield, often has a winger in the wing-back positions as well, one full-back in that position, maybe one winger in that position, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. And I think maybe that's even good news for Harry Maguire as time goes by, because whatever view people have of Harry Maguire, he's good on the ball. There's no doubt about that. Now, I think if you go back again a season or two with Sporting, Sebastian Coates, who had a short and not that successful spell at Liverpool, but was very highly regarded at Sporting and a real leader, he did that kind of role. And because of the back three and because of the amorphousness of the midfield, as you were talking about, they managed to cover Coates' lack of pace. And I think they can do that for Maguire. Now, of course, the plan might be that they do that with Matthijs de Ligt. Of course, a lot of Bayern fans really sad to see him go in this summer. And he really has got the quality to step out and join the attack too.
Andy, in the forward areas, you know, we look at, obviously, Gyökeres is playing for Benfica there. I suggest that would probably be Højlund for Sporting, sorry. And are we looking at Garnacho and Rashford? Or are we looking at Bruno in one of these positions at the top of the field?
That's the $1 million question, really, Tim. What does he do with Bruno Fernandes? Now, of course, they just missed each other by about 6 weeks. He left for Manchester United, Bruno, just before Amorim arrived. So seeing how the pair of them click together would be really interesting, because the the reason that Bruno Fernandes worked so well at Manchester United in the first place is because he was required to do exactly the same role that he'd done at Sporting. Solskjaer just gave him the keys to the team and said, right, okay, you be our plan, you be our solution. And Bruno Fernandes was allowed to, and because he's got such a tactically wide education, of course, he grew up as a footballer in Italy with Novara and Sampdoria and Udinese. He's someone who can play balls from deeper as well as make those late runs into the box. So he's almost half Lampard, half Pirlo, really. It's quite an interesting mix. But I would say because Amorim likes these two midfielders who completely cover the defence, that's really, really important to him. I think that Bruno Fernandes becomes part of the three. So plays where Pedro Gonçalves has been playing for him at Sporting. Pedro Gonçalves, who funnily enough was Bruno Fernandes' eventual replacement at Sporting, because that allows Bruno Fernandes to not really have defensive responsibility. If he attempts difficult passes, which he does, and gives the ball away a bit, it doesn't really matter because he's in the final third. And he can get into the box and score goals. And you think of the goal against Chelsea, the penalty being his first Premier League goal since, April? That is something, as Bruno Fernandes has publicly acknowledged, needs to change, really. So if you look at the way they go at the moment, as Matt says, it's not really a front three, it's a 2 and a 1. Yeah. So Højlund could be that player. You know, you can look at Gyökeres and think you need a really aggressive striker to be that middle one. I don't think you do, because as you might remember, Tim, from when they played Tottenham in the Champions League, you had Marcus Edwards, who's 5'6" as a centre forward in those games. So he is adaptable, like a Guardiola, for example. But I think you need one who's going to come into the box, like Fernandes, and one who's going to be the dribbler, like Garnacho. That would roughly replicate what he's done with Trincao and Pedro Gonçalves at Sporting.
I was going to ask you, would you think he'd go for Gyökeres? I mean, he's got a buyout clause, I think, of 85 million pounds, 100 million euro.
100 million euros. That's right, Tim. Well, he was asked about
and maybe
this
Marcus
on Friday.
Edwards.
I think Marcus Edwards is, I think, would be really useful to them. He's sort of dropped from being an automatic choice in the 11 in the last couple of months. So maybe not, although I think he'd be really great in the Premier League. Of course, he knows it well from coming through the Tottenham youth team. But I don't know. I think the thing is with Gyökeres, he would be a huge upgrade on what they've got. And I like Højlund, and he's going to develop into something really good. I'm pretty sure about that. And Gyökeres is a technically adept and a real pain for defenders and a great finisher. So he's got Premier League written all over him. But Ruben Amorim was asked about this on Friday night after they won the game against the Estrela Amadora, in which Gyökeres scored 4 goals, taking him up to 16 for the season just in the club game, not counting the goals he scored for Sweden. And he said, well, you can't really make a transfer like that happen in the January window, can you? So he didn't rule out buying him in the longer term or petitioning the board to ask him in the longer term. And remember, he gave the board at Sporting absolute hell to get them to shell out 20 million to bring him from Coventry. So it wouldn't be a massive surprise to see him go for him again. But I think for it to happen in January is probably a bit soon. And I think with where United are, that he can get time to gradually develop the team without necessarily the pressure to, for it to be Champions League or bust, I think is probably a good idea. And then he can take stock of the players he's got and make those big moves next summer.
It's going to be fascinating to see how he gets on. Andy, really appreciate your insight. Thanks for joining us on Generation XG.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, mate.
Cheers, Andy.
Thank you, Andy.
Right, guys, taking what Andy's just said about the system and how he likes to play, we're going to go, this is the team that played against Chelsea at the weekend. That's unlikely to be the team when Ruben Amorim takes charge of Manchester United against Ipswich for his first game after the international break. So, who comes into the team? Who are the winners and losers with Amorim?
Are we talking about now with the players who are...
Well, this is we actually don't know who's going to be available, do we? Post international break, Euro could be fit. Shaw potentially could be fit. We don't know. Manutd, will he be fit? Probably. Yeah. So I think we'll look at this squad and let's pick it. So I'll tell you what, let's get him in the shape already. Let's get him straight into a shape. I'll bring Garnacho into here. I'll make that 4. I'll go a back 3 there. So that's the shape. We know it's 2 behind 1. Yeah. Yeah. So that's the shape. So it's more of a 3-4-2-1. Yeah. That's the shape. Yeah. Effectively. Yeah. So who's going to play where?
I think he's happy with the Nana at the back. I think
Nana
stays. You got the back three, Tim.
Back three. Well, we know.
Listen, if it was
Andy said Harry Maguire might be a big winner because this midfield one. This central one drops.
I don't see it.
Don't see it. Okay, so who's going to play in the middle then? Someone who can step into midfield.
Well, someone who can run as well, and someone who's comfortable with receiving the ball with his back to goal. Because when they have possession, they need that man to step in. Be interesting. We don't know what Euro's like, do we?
Do you want to bring him in?
Yeah, we'll bring him in, but De Ligt, we have to lose.
You're losing De Ligt?
We're losing De Ligt. and we're not having Maguire in there either.
OK, so we'll get Euro.
It's really important that
Martinez left side.
The left side and the right side of centre-back need to be able to run.
So are you going to have
and they need to be able to defend in wide areas. For me, it's not Dalot in that position. It would be Mazraoui for me.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Mazraoui's been terrific as a defender and been able to be mobile.
Mazraoui here as a back three.
As a back three.
So Mazraoui, Euro, Martinez. Is that happy?
Yeah.
Yeah. OK, what are you going? So Dalot, what, left wing back or not?
Dalot stays there. I think it stays right wing back for me.
Stays right wing back. OK.
Let's push Garnacho out the way, but I think that suits him.
OK.
Yeah.
No problem.
More defensive.
Yeah. OK. Midfield two. Ugarte, Casemiro.
I think Kobe Mainoo instead of Casemiro. I think you need legs.
I agree with that.
I'm not sure the boy is a 6. I think he's an 8. I think he likes to get up and down the field.
I think they play slightly like that. They don't play square. It's not 2 6s. I think it's a 6 and maybe one who pushes on a little bit more.
I agree with that.
Yeah? And then left wing back then, Garnacho, or we're looking at Shaw? Or
Luke Shaw for me.
If he's fit.
If he's fit? I mean, if he's fit.
It's a big if, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a big if, but definitely.
But Luke Shaw comes in.
All day long he can play there.
And then Højlund up top.
He's
the best number 9, isn't he?
He's the only number
9 at the club. Rashford, Fernandes behind, or is it because he said one's going to be one that gets in the box and one's going to be a dribbler? He said Garnacho and Fernandes possibly.
For me, if Højlund's not doing, I would play Rashford up there at times because I think that's something that he could certainly look at. I think Fernandes has got to be in the side in that position, and if Højlund is playing up front, for me, it's Rashford because I just think Garnacho needs time to develop more. And I think Rashford would benefit from being in that area.
Front three, you're happy with that front three? You're happy with that? Is that the best team with what he's got available, do you think? Ahmad, one of the wingers, one of the wing-back positions, maybe?
Well, if Shaw's not fit, then I think that's his best option, Ahmad coming in there. I think he's a really good footballer.
And a dribbler. And quick. And willing to run back. The thing is with these wing-backs, they've got to be prepared to get forward and support. Also, they've got to run as quickly going that way. They've got to run back as quick as they go forward. But he will demand that. If they don't do it, he'll leave them out. I mean, this is the personality of the guy. That's why he's coming to Man United. It's because he has demands of his players. And I've watched him play at Arsenal and at Tottenham. I'm not looking at him in the domestic league, which is inferior to the Premier League. I'm looking at him against our teams, Premier League teams in the Champions League and the Europa League, and they were outstanding. They were well drilled, well organised, and this is exactly how they play. It's going to take time for them to learn that.
We've had a look at this over 3 or 4 minutes. He's got some big decisions to make, hasn't he, when he comes in?
And he's got big decisions to make. These lot on the bench because I look at these. All on the bench, I don't think a lot of them don't suit that system.
Well,
it's about clearing.
We'll get a bit of a glimpse of him when Sporting take on Manchester City in the Champions League, of course, tomorrow. We're going to take another